Rev up your engines!
Well, Ford did it again to recall more than 100,000 vehicles because guess what? The oil pump may break. Of course, then your engine would lock up. And here's the hilarious thing what they say. 100,000 Ford vehicles have been recalled following an issue with the loss of oil pressure that could increase the risk of a crash. 2016 to 18 Ford Focus and 2022 Ford EcoSport vehicles. Now here is the problem. They say risk of crash. Yeah, it could stop and crash. That's bad too. But just as bad as if your oil pump stops pumping, your engine blows up and it's goodbye engine. Here's the thing. The idiots came up with this idea to drive the oil pump with a rubber belt. All right, you take almost all the oil pumps in the world, they run off of gears inside the engine, and they worked forever and worked fine, right? Well, some moronic engineer came up with, hey, let's make them cheaper. Let's put an oil pump, we can drive it with a rubber belt. And in this case, tensioners aren't working right, or the belts are breaking. There are 139,730 units that can be affected. Here we go. Ford. Not only is it bad quality, they're not building them right, but they're designing them like crap. Who on heck would put a rubber belt to drive an oil pump? Rubber and oil really don't go together all that well, right? Come on now, people. It's just like they got some engines out there now that have a rubber belt that drives the engine. Camshafts run off the crankshaft, right? And the overhead cams are driven by a rubber belt that's soaked in oil. Okay, the old rubber belts, it's a cheaper way to make them, but they were in air, right? Now they have them soaked in oil and they say, oh, that doesn't bother. They're really well made. Well, guess what? They're not. They're breaking. They cause problems, just like this stupid design that Ford had. Yet another stupid idea put out by Ford that's breaking down. Your engine could lock up because they built it cheaply, and they didn't even build the cheap design correctly. James Pendergast says, does higher tech mean less reliability? Are cars with more technology less reliable than cars with less technology? Well, of course, it depends on who's making the cars. Old Fiats were junk. New Fiats are junk. They're both junk because they're not made right. Toyota makes pretty good cars, right? Their high-tech technology, for most cases, works quite well, and it doesn't have a problem. It depends who's making it. But, of course, let's go full circle. Repairing high-tech technology costs a lot more. It's much more complex. The parts cost more. And because it's so high-tech, a lot of people don't even know how to fix them correctly. And the systems themselves are kind of prone to create complex problems that are very hard to figure out. I'll give you an example. Most modern cars use a CAN bus system where all the information goes on this CAN bus line. There's high speed, there's low speed, and there's mid-range speed. They all go on the same copper wire. Most of it's copper wires. Well, what happens is when you get low speed, high speed, mid speed, all going on the same wire at the same time, a lot of times it interferes with itself. Your car will get a code for one thing, and it has nothing to do with that thing. It's that the low speed CAN got confused by the high speed CAN information that was traveling on the same wire. So the computer tripped the code thinking there was something wrong when there wasn't. It was just a communication glitch. And I see that all the time now. I'm working on cars, and I plug in late model scan tools to late model cars, and you get these absurd codes, right? And you're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with this part of the engine. What could it be? And then you find out that there's a short in the high-speed system. Somehow it fed into the low-speed, and it tripped the low-speed code and not the high-speed code. So fixing these things is total insanity. Yes, fixing them, that's another story. When they finally do break it, of course, everything breaks. But let's say you buy a Toyota, it breaks at 400,000 miles. You got your money's worth. But let's say you buy a Fiat, and it breaks at 12,000 miles. You didn't get your money's worth, whether it's low-tech or high-tech. Doesn't make any difference then. Flynn Bryant says, I'm looking for a car for my 16-year-old son. I want it to last 7 years. Good gas mileage. We have about 14 grand to spend. I want him to go through high school and 4 years of college. We found a Toyota Camry 2015 XLE hybrid with 117,000 miles. I know you're feeling about Toyotas, but I'm worried about the hybrid. What do you think? I've seen those Camrys with 250,000 and they're still running perfectly fine. Toyota makes the best hybrid systems. I'm not a fan of CVT transmissions, but those have the electronic CVTs for the hybrid system, and they very rarely have problems. They're pretty bulletproof too. That actually is a decent car. Now you say it's sold at a dealership. You didn't say what they're asking. Now it's got 117,000 miles on it, right? Now I wouldn't pay 14 grand for a car with that many miles myself. And they're probably going to ask for that or more at a dealership because they're just scumbags. They they always want to make a ton of money, everything they do, every time they turn around, right? But the car itself, they're excellent cars. Now, don't trust anybody. Pay a guy like me to check it out, because hybrids are really complex. My machine can check it out in 5 minutes, right? It's a $5,000 scan tool. It's an Autel. It does a great job. But you got to get it checked out, because you can't trust anybody. In hybrids, it's even more important to check them out. My machine will tell you what shape the battery is, and it's a very expensive battery. The hybrid battery will tell you that. So you get it checked out, it could be a great car. Scott 12345 says, did I damage the engine with wrong oil? I got a 2021 Jeep Gladiator. I mistakenly put 5W20 instead of 0W20. I drove it a couple miles, then changed to 020. Did it damage the engine? Oh no. I mean, you could actually driven it that way. That little bit of difference isn't going to make any difference at all in the short run. It might do a little damage over hundreds of thousands of miles. You only drove it a couple of miles, so don't worry. I've had people put in 520 instead of 020 because they believed, oh, I think I like a little bit heavier oil, and they never had any problems with the car in the long run either. It's such a small difference. No, don't worry about it. Put yourself to rest. You didn't do any damage to the vehicle, especially that short period of time. And the difference between 520 and 020 is almost negligible. It's not really going to make all the difference at all. You just get slightly worse gas mileage, a tiny bit. You probably wouldn't even notice because it's a little heavier. And you only had it in for a couple of miles. So no, it didn't hurt anything. Eli Mexico says, should I change my transmission fluid? I got a 2018 Toyota Prius C with 34,000 miles. Tranny fluid's never been changed. The car runs fine. Should I change it? Yeah, change it. I mean, you only really need to change that on a Toyota every 40 or 50,000 miles. So change it. Learn how to do it. There's a drain plug and a fill plug. You can watch videos on how to do it and do it yourself. Just make sure you go to the Toyota dealer and buy the same exact fluid. You do not want to mix it. Just do that. Now you can do it like every 40,000 miles or every 30,000 miles if you want to be a fanatic. They're well-made transmissions, though. I'll tell you the truth. I've seen people with those Priuses, they've never changed the transmission fluid, and they got 200,000 miles. Realize those are electronic CVTs. A lot of it's electronic, and they don't get dirty as much as the older style transmissions did. But just to be safe, I'd change it every 30, 40,000 miles. B. Summers 12 says, my daughter's got a MAF sensor permanent code. My daughter's 17 Chevy Cruze had a MAF sensor code. I replaced the air filter and the MAF sensor. Cleared the code, and the next day the check engine light came on again. It said I had a permanent MAF code this time. It won't clear. What can I do? Did you buy an original equipment MAF sensor, right? You don't go to a discount auto parts store and buy one of theirs because the quality of the Chinese-made stuff is crap, and a lot of times it's no good at all, right? You have to buy the original equipment one, right? The AC Delco one. You have to buy that. Now, if you did, and now you got a permanent code, then you have something wrong in the system. The wiring could go bad, or, heaven forbid, if your main computer, your PCM, if the driver for the MAF sensor is bad, it'll trip a permanent code. And those GM vehicles, they make a lot of crappy computers. That could be your powertrain control module. The main computer is bad, right? Do try the factory one first. And if that doesn't fix it, my advice, go to a mechanic like me. If you're near Clarksville, bring it here. I check them out free. Have the wiring checked and pray that the wiring's bad and not the main computer. But a lot of times it is the main computer because GM makes crap, and the Cruze is one of the worst things they've ever made. Well, old Hertz is taking a step back with electric vehicles. They're starting to sell a bunch of the Teslas that they had, and now they say they're going to rebalance the number of electric vehicles, meaning that not only are they selling a bunch of the Teslas, that they're not going to buy very many new ones either, they said. And here's Hertz thing. Hertz claims damage and collision costs are high for the EV rentals, notoriously long and expensive repair times, and bad resale value. You know, let's face the facts. Hertz went bankrupt and they redid whatever they do, and now they're running again, right? Well, they're not a very well-run company, obviously, and they don't understand anything about cars. They should ask a guy like me, and I'd say, don't buy 100,000 of these stupid Teslas. People don't want to rent them. You're going to have problems when they get in wrecks. You're going to lose money because the cars are going to be sitting there for months waiting to get fixed, right? That's the thing. You run a business, you want something you can rent out forever, right? There's a guy in the Netherlands, and he's suing Tesla because he bought a bunch of them, and he said, look, I've got electric Mercedes, electric Audis, they work fine, but your stupid Teslas are always breaking. They say that, oh, they can carry all this weight, and they did, and they were breaking in half when people were driving them. These guys in the Netherlands, it was a business, and they realized we're losing money with these stupid Teslas. And then they just got rid of them and didn't buy any more, right? Well, Herz didn't do any kind of ideas about it. Economically, we got to rent these things out as many days as possible. Well, if they're sitting for 3 months waiting for parts, they can't rent them out. Therefore, they're losing money. And the worst thing is their resale value was absolute crap. This fantasy where people were paying more for a used Tesla than a new one during coronavirus, that's all gone. Now the resale value of these things is garbage. I had a guy the other day bought one for $7,000 here in Clarksville. Only had 40,000 miles on it. People don't want these things anymore. And of course, to add fuel to the fire, people don't want to rent one. It's a headache, right? You're on vacation. What do you want? Range anxiety while you're on vacation, right? At least if you live somewhere, you know, well, there's charges here and there. You can plan it. But when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to have a good time vacationing, do you want to sit looking around and spend hours of your time? No, you're on vacation, right? So people don't want to rent electric cars, and they found it out. Bunch of idiots. No wonder they went bankrupt. Sounds to me that the same idiots are running a company that were running it before. They make just as dumb decisions as Hertz did originally to go bankrupt. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.